Chapter 4 Petrichor. Ryan wasn't sure how long he'd been left there. A few hours, maybe. His body was cold and stiff and sore, and it felt like his brain was being gently squeezed every now and then. Probably a combination of the blunt force trauma and caffeine deprivation, he thought. The sun had faded away to gray, and the humidity in the poorly sealed warehouse had gone up. It wasn't long before raindrops started to fall heavily on the tin roof above, and the smell of rain on the dry earth outside began to permeate the room. Petrichor, Ryan thought to himself, beginning only now to properly calm down. While the others despised the rain, Ryan actually enjoyed it. It always rains on day 2. As much as Ryan considered himself a logical man, he still hadn't changed his mind about Jeremy. There wasn't enough evidence to convince him that his instinct was wrong. Jeremy should have told Jeff about Funhouse sooner, there was no doubting that, but even Ryan would have been nervous to admit that to Jeff had he been in the same position. He had to get out and find Jeremy, let him know what Jeff knew before the crew tracked him down. Footsteps behind him made him swivel around to get a better look. Ow. That was a mistake. His shoulder stung again. The dried blood congealed into the gauze dressing was pulling off like a scab, and he could feel the warmth of fresh blood rising to the surface of the wound. He cringed and dropped his chin to his chest. "How you going, buddy?" Jeff asked. He sounded far more mellow. "Ready to have another chat?" Ryan looked up with a face that tried to say, "Do I have a choice?" But the ruined remains of his stubborn face paint made it look vaguely aggressive, and Jeff hesitated a moment before removing the duct tape from his mouth, pulling irritatingly at his coarse stubble. He moved his jaw a few times and licked his lips, tasting the bitter adhesive residue left over. "Wouldn't happen to have a Diet Coke on you, would you?" Jeff laughed and Jack scoffed, both grinning at him. "Sadly, no, but you can have some water." Jeff paused. "After our chat." Ryan drew a deep breath. "He's a good kid, Jeff." "Oh, come on!" Jeff was frustrated again, but this time it was Jack to defuse the situation. "Look, we know he's done right by us in the past. If what Kovic's saying about him is true, all he's done is not tell us that he was running with them. That's forgivable." He sounded so certain, so reassuring, in the way only Jack could. "We don't know what he's up to now, but we need to keep our guard up, just in case." Ryan nodded. Jeff seemed placated for now. They'd clearly been trying to determine Ryan's potential traitor status, asking around if anyone had heard rumors of him working with outsiders, tracking down his contacts outside of the fake AH crew. He didn't have all that many contacts, but the ones he did, he trusted, and they were the networkers, so he rarely had to talk to more than one person for information. It worked well for him to keep the vagabond as mysterious as he was known to be, so, obviously, they'd found nothing on him, but he was still under close guard. "Can I please get up? My ass went to sleep hours ago, and I think I'm bleeding out again." Ryan motioned to the growing patch of red on the gauze on his shoulder. "Jeff, we really need to get that stitched," Jack said quietly. Jeff rubbed his hands together pensively. "Jack, do you still have that taser?" Ryan practically whimpered. "Jesus, Jeff, is that really necessary?" "I don't know, but I'd rather have it and not use it than trust you and not have it. It's better than getting shot in the leg, though." Jeff shot him a glare. Exasperated, Ryan just shook his head. "Fine, just let me up. I'm not going to try anything, you have my word." Jeff scowled at that. "For whatever it's worth, anyway," Ryan mumbled. "It used to be enough. Well, kind of." Jack and Jeff had freed him and allowed him time to stretch, recovering some sensation and movement in his limbs, and drink water. He hadn't realized how badly dehydrated he was. It had definitely been a contributing factor to his headaches, which had begun to subside a little. Under Jack's instruction, he had changed the gauze dressing on his shoulder, which was a nasty mess of drying blood and yellowish liquid and smelled rancid. It had started bleeding again as the superficial scabs had been removed with the dressing, so Ryan had been instructed to keep pressure on it until they could meet with Lindsay to stitch it. For that to happen, though, they had to move to her. It was still raining as they made their way to Jeff's car. Jack drove while Jeff kept the taser on Ryan at all times in the back seat. Ryan was still shirtless, but they had given him back his jacket, which he had now placed over his shoulders. They had, however, taken his shoes in a frankly kind of pathetic attempt to deter him from running off at either end of the journey. The ride was awkward, to say the least. Jeff began by barely threatening him with the taser if he tried anything, while Ryan tried to convince him that the idea was ridiculous. We're literally going somewhere so I can get medical attention. Why would I try something now? Jeff's paranoia was starting to get the better of him, and Ryan wasn't dealing with it well. He clammed up instead, remaining silent for the rest of the ride, watching the bright neon lights of the seedier parts of Los Santos reflect on the heavily tinted windows of Jeff's car in stark contrast to the gloomy conditions outside. The sun was due to be setting, but through the thick cloud cover and pouring rain it was nearly impossible to tell. Ryan pressed his head to the cool glass of the window and shut his eyes, but a bump in the road made him pull back, revealing a smudge of gray paint on the window. His reflection in the glass stared back at him, eyes wild, bloodshot whites surrounding clear blue irises, his face a mess of running, smudged paint, purple and green bruises just beginning to show on his left cheek. His heart skipped a beat when Gavin's voice came over the radio. "Jeff, we think we found where Jeremy's going. We're on our way downtown, headed to the Vanelli Unicorn. We got a tip from Caden that's where he's been going lately to meet a contact. We're still a way off and have to do some recon, but we can meet you back at the safe house on Bay Tree after." "Good job, Gavin," Jeff yelled through the radio in the front seat. "Be careful. Do whatever it takes to bring him in." Ryan's blood ran cold. They'd all heard that before. It was basically Jeff's way of saying, "Kill him if you have to." He swallowed hard. He had to do something. The car slowed, only briefly, but it was just enough time for Ryan to react, spinning in his seat to plant his feet against Jeff's chest and kick out hard, throwing him off balance and knocking the taser out of his grasp. In the same movement, Ryan reached back and threw the door open, tucking and rolling out of the car so fluidly it almost looked rehearsed. It was a fluke, of course. He'd never be able to pull that off again. Ryan's bare feet hit the wet pavement, and he ran like his life depended on it, which, he supposed, it might. The rain fell heavily all around him, cold and clarifying. He saw the shadows from headlights swing around in front of him, and he knew Jack was trying to give chase. He turned sharply and ran down a narrow alley, squeezing between two dumpsters, tripping over his bare feet as they stumbled over loose gravel, broken glass, or slick spots of grease or puke in the alley. Leaving traces of blood in his wake, he ran until he felt like his lungs were about to burst, and his heart pounded in his ears. He stumbled, caught himself, and then finally slowed, reaching up to feel the gash on his shoulder pulsing steadily beneath his fingers. Blood was soaking through the fresh gauze dressing, running in small rivulets down his skin as it mixed with the rain. He struggled to catch his breath, the pounding rain making it feel like he was drowning, but he forced himself on. He had to get to Jeremy before the others. "Hey, Gavin." "Yeah, Jeff." "He took the bait. You and Michael got incoming." "Top, Jeff. Good plan.